Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. We are Chris and Natalie Carpenter, owners of Story Real Estate, and our team of top agents helps people find homes in Moscow, Idaho, and around the country.
Have you thought about a move? Contact us to get connected with a top agent who shares your values and puts your family first. Or reach out to us about our Moscow relocation guide.
Wherever you're looking to go, we can help you find home. Call us at Story Real Estate or visit us at storyrealestate.com and start building your legacy.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like CrossPolitic or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.
We need a little sunshine in Idaho today. A little sunshine, huh?
We have it.
Hey, y'all, welcome to CrossPolitic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. Pastor Toby, Jock Knox, I'm the Waterboy, and we got the good Dr. Glenn Sunshine in northern Idaho up in the chimney on a day where it's pretty cold and snowy. It's actually,
So that's how
February's tricky up here.
We know he loves us.
Exactly.
The trip was scheduled before I saw the weather report.
So it might not be love.
Might not have come if he had known.
I should have special music for you, and I don't have any. I mean, with a name like Sunshine, it needs to be like make Clark Sisters. You brought
You
the
are my
sunshine.
sunshine, my
Please
only
don't.
sun.
Yeah.
No.
He's heard that
He's
one
heard that
probably.
one. Yeah.
I was in high school in the 70s during the era in which every group felt like they had to do a song referencing Sunshine.
Yeah.
I've heard them all.
Yeah.
Clark Sisters Sunshine? See, you haven't heard that one.
I don't think I've heard that
I'm going to find that one for you.
one. Okay.
Gravity Jack is a full-service digital agency specializing in the development of virtual and augmented reality experiences, mobile apps, blockchain, and Web3 projects. Founded in 2009 as the first American agency to offer augmented reality, they even patented it. Gravity Jack's digital experiences have been a source of innovation for small business, Fortune 500 companies, and the U.S. military. So get your vision in motion at gravityjack.com today.
That's great.
Hey, as Gabe mentioned, we are very grateful to have with us Dr. Glenn Sunshine, former professor of history at Central Connecticut State University, senior faculty member of the Colson Fellows, and he is the author of the book, Why You Think the Way You Do.
Yes.
Also, Slaying Leviathan.
Yes.
Also, brand new book about to come out. I forgot the name of it.
Christians who changed their world, changed the world. Christians who changed their world? Their world?
It's their world.
Their world. Christians changed their world. Because I transferred this from what Jake gave me over into my Kindle, and it messed up some of the format when I transferred over. Yeah.
But it's a series of how many biographies?
32.
32 biographies, most of whom I scanned the table of contents, most of whom I'd not heard of.
That's part of the point.
Yeah. I thought maybe so. I thought why?
Well, the book originated at a lecture I was giving for a program with Chuck Colson, and they had this habit of giving me titles and not telling me what to do with them. Yeah. So
we do that at Fight Laugh Feast Conference.
Yeah.
We do that too.
Yeah. So they gave me the title Christians Who Changed Their World. And knowing Chuck, he wanted me to do Wilberforce and people like that. And I said, nah.
Yeah.
Way too easy.
Yeah.
So what I deliberately decided to pick people who were obscure, or if you knew about them, you didn't know that they were a Christian. People who weren't in the clergy, or if they were doing things we don't normally associate with the clergy, and just show how the Christian faith walks itself out in all kinds of different walks of life. So I've got everybody from mathematicians and scientists to educators to artists, all kinds of different things from around the world. Literally every continent except Australia. I missed them.
Yeah.
Well, because they're
Antarctica.
They're tough. They're tough.
Why did you have such a long span of time? You go from the 5th century to modern era. Why? I mean, couldn't we have found some people in the same century?
Well, the point is that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever.
It's a post-mill book. That's all you had to say. It's post-mill. I get it. Historically, that's how it works. Okay.
The book is the title is actually 32 Christians who changed their world.
Right.
All right.
Why not the world?
So not just Christians who changed the world, but 32 Christians. That's the title.
Why not the world?
Yeah.
I wanted their world because in some cases the impact that they had was only really felt locally. So, which is perfectly all right. There's nothing wrong with that. That was their calling. That was what they were doing.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily make changes that affected the whole world.
Right.
So their world seemed more appropriate.
For 2,000 years, Christians have accomplished glorious things. Dr. Glenn Sunshine has compiled story after story of faithful men and women of the faith. These mothers and fathers of our faith laid the foundations for science. Some were political figures who promoted Christianity in hostile societies. Some stories include opposition to racial oppression, a few heroes who helped Jews even escape the Holocaust. I mean, you did 32 of them.
Actually, I did 60. Actually, over 60.
Actually,
But only 32 made it in the book?
There's
He did over 60. Okay.
Yeah.
Volume 2?
Hopefully, I sent the whole list to Canon Press, and they picked the ones they wanted.
Oh,
Interesting.
I see how it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did they do?
They picked a lot of good ones. There were some that I would have liked maybe to have seen in that.
Okay.
Well, we've got 32.
Right.
I don't know how many more they could.
I mean,
really shoehorn in.
obviously did all of them, so you think well of all of them.
Right.
You think they're all important, significant.
But like one child, you got one favorite than the other? I mean,
well,
we don't.
Yeah, there are some of them that have had a bigger impact on me personally, and there are some of them that are just really, really colorful.
So give us an example of one or two that just really stand out to you, of the 32 that made it.
Oh, let's start colorful. I want to do the colorful ones first.
Oh, sure. Or whatever.
Yeah,
Are they in or outside?
Knox always talking about color.
Okay.
It's Black History Month.
All right. So probably in some ways the most outrageous in a lot of ways of them is a woman named Sorkaktani Beki.
Okay.
She was from a clan in the Mongols, at the time of Genghis Khan. Mm-hmm. The clan was Nestorian Christians. So what most people don't know is there were Turkic tribes and Mongol tribes that were Christian.
Right.
Typically Nestorians, because they were the ones who did missions work in that area. And Genghis Khan himself, when his family was slaughtered, took refuge with this clan and actually grew up among Nestorian Christians. Mm-hmm. And, well, there were some battles involved in all of that, but in the long run, the daughter of the Khan from that clan, married Genghis Khan's son, one of his sons. Mm-hmm. And she ended up, their territory ended up being China. And he died, and she took over ruling that part of the Mongol Empire. There was opposition to this, and without going into details, it ended badly for the opposition. Since they were royalty, it was forbidden for them to have their blood shed when the coup happened. And so what they tended to do was to roll them up in rugs and trample them by horses to execute them. So like I said, there are some sort of negative aspects of this story. But she was known in Mongolia. She's remembered as one of their greatest queens. And she's referred to as the mother of Khans because two of her sons become the great Khan over all of Mongolia, including Kublai Khan. One of them was the Il Khan of Persia, the under Khan of Persia. And in running her part of the empire, she was so well respected that nobody, Buddhists, Muslims, Christians, Confucianists, nobody had anything negative to say about her. They all praised her as a good and generous ruler. She even treated the Chinese peasants well, which was very rare for the Mongols. They're nomadic herdsmen. They don't like farmers.
Yeah.
She treated them well. And there was actually an embassy that went from Persia there who met her, an ambassador who met her, And he commented that if he could find one other woman on Earth like her, he would have concluded that women, the race of women, as he put it, was superior to the race of men. She was that impressive.
Wow.
A thoroughly interesting figure, but, well, she was a Mongol queen, which means that there are some rather unsavory parts of her career. So I think she's one of the most unexpected in the book.
So she was from 1190 to 1252. Was there any connection between like her? I know this is kind of a far out question, probably not, but like Innocent III was around that time.
Yeah, Innocent III was roughly in that period. But you don't have any embassies that I remember going from Innocent to the Mongols in this period. Yeah. Of course, the Mongols were sending their own version of embassies into Europe in this period. You've got Mongol armies fighting in Hungary and in Poland and so on as the empire expanded. But
what made her rule so respected by others?
The carpet, the rugs,
well, she was. She was smart. She was a good leader, a good administrator, and the part of their empire was run very, very well. Like I said, nobody in the territory really had anything. No group in the territory had anything bad to say about her. She was a very effective ruler and a very compassionate one, it seems.
So, and then why would you put her in this list of your 32?
Well,
are you trying to sneak in women leaders? I'm a little cautious about you.
I included her because I found out about her when I was doing a research on worldview in Mongolia, and I was so intrigued by her. I thought she deserved to be written up.
Okay.
And again, the idea that you have a Mongol queen who is a Christian, who is the mother of Kublai Khan and the daughter-in-law of Genghis Khan is not one of these things most people would expect.
Right. So how she changed her world would you'd summarize as
a combination of great leadership, great ruling, and contributing a number of very, very important leaders of the Mongol Empire that she helped raise and train.
Yeah.
Did the church expand under her in the Mongolian Empire?
No, although under Genghis Khan, at least, there was religious toleration. Genghis himself was a shamanist, a worshiper of a god named Tengri.
Yeah.
But he believed that Tengri was a universal god, but that he allowed different cultures their own ways of worshiping him. So he allowed Christians, he allowed Muslims, he allowed Buddhists, whatever. As long as you didn't cause them trouble, you were welcome.
It sounds similar to kind of an Esther story of sorts. I mean, maybe Esther doesn't have the exact same power that that this gal did, but nevertheless, I mean, taken into a pagan king's harem, if married, and then ends up having a very
huge impact,
significant impact, particularly for her people in the Persian Empire.
Yeah. Well, remember, she was the daughter of the Khan of her tribe.
Right.
So she is in a sense nobility or royalty or something in her own right.
Right.
And there's no indication of this being a forced marriage or anything like that.
Yeah.
It was, it was definitely a political marriage, but there wasn't any kind of pulling them into a harem or something like that.
Yeah.
That wasn't really the idea.
In that case, I was thinking of Esther. But
I think it's an interesting parallel.
Yeah.
So you put Leif Erikson, a pagan Viking, in here.
Oh, Leif was not a pagan. Okay, and he was the other one of the colorful ones I wanted to talk about.
Okay, all right.
Because again, everybody knows Leif Erikson, the Viking who discovers North America, right?
Yeah.
What they don't tell you, a little bit of background. Leif Erikson, Eric the Red, was his father. Eric established a colony in Greenland.
That's right.
And he established that colony because
when it was green.
He was kicked out of Iceland for murdering somebody, and he was in Iceland because he was kicked out of Norway for murdering someone.
Oops.
He got a little streak there, huh?
Yeah.
I see a pattern.
Eric is your prototype for the Viking.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, he does that. Well, his son Leif travels to Norway, and meets the king of Norway, a guy named Olaf I. And Olaf had converted to Christianity.
Huh.
Now, Olaf was very zealous for his Christianity in a way only a Viking can be zealous, and I'm not. I am
Because
not.
he killed people for not converting, right?
Yeah.
What's the problem here?
He actually blockaded Iceland until they agreed to accept Christianity.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sometimes a win's a win.
A win is a win.
So Leif arrives there, and he goes to Olaf's court, and he converts. He becomes Christian.
Yeah.
Not under threat of torture or death, but he does become a Christian. And after he learns enough about the faith, Olaf sends him back to Greenland to convert his father and to,
Eric the Red,
and to convert the colony.
Yeah.
And it's while he's going back that he ends up going a bit off course and landing in North America. There were probably other Vikings who had been in, or Norse, who had been in North America earlier. There's some talk of shipwrecks and things like that. So he may have heard about it and gone looking for it. Or he may have simply missed Greenland.
Yeah.
Now, you got to understand, Viking ships have these large square sails.
Yeah.
And there's only a limited amount of tacking into the wind that you can do.
Right. With the square sail, yeah.
But the prevailing winds in the North Atlantic come from the west. So how do you sail west? The answer is storms.
Storms, yeah.
Storms go cyclonic.
Yeah.
And as a result, if you've got a hurricane or a major storm traveling across the North Atlantic, you can ride the northern edge of the storm with the winds going in that direction to get you west.
Take you west.
And under those circumstances, missing Greenland is plausible.
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, and also you didn't have an Apple Watch or GPS.
Yeah. So, and he establishes a colony in the New World. Another person that I have on the list, Gudrid the Far Traveler, was a woman from Iceland who was at that colony, and she gave birth to the first known European child in North America in that colony.
And she married his Leif's brother-in-law. Or his brother.
Yeah, well, actually,
for a short time, and then he died.
Yeah, she had several husbands. They tended to keep dying. Not her fault. Not her fault.
It's a Judah thing.
Not her fault. But the Skrælings, as they were called, the Native American tribes. By the way, Skræling is Norse for barbarian.
Yeah.
You got to wonder what makes a Viking call somebody a barbarian. But in any event, they made it difficult enough that he withdrew from the colony and went to Greenland, as he was originally commissioned to do, and in fact started the church in Greenland.
Wow.
His mother readily converted, and then Eric didn't want to have anything to do with this new religion. But she told him she wouldn't sleep with him again until unless he became a Christian.
Man, them Vikings.
And after
a win is a win.
and after a period, he did in fact convert.
Yeah, he did.
There's conversion.
I believe.
There's conversion by the sword. There's conversion by the marriage bed.
Oh man.
Okay. All right.
So you wanted some of the colorful ones. Here you got it.
That's funny.
You got another one?
Funny.
You got another
No, wait. Leif. Greenland. It was when I was reading through Leif. It seemed like Greenland was basically a Christian nation all the way through, like the last settlers that ended up leaving.
Yeah,
and there was one of the last documented things on Greenland was a Christian marriage, and then that was it.
Yeah, that's exactly
crazy.
true. Greenland remained Christian throughout its history.
Yeah,
under the Norse, and technically, I think today it's still officially a Lutheran country because it's owned by Denmark, if I remember right.
nothing good comes out of Denmark.
Let me read this ad, and then I want to come back with another question for you. Rowdy Christian Merch is the place where you can find.
We need a Viking line.
All your Rowdy Christian merch. If you're a fan of CrossPolitic or the Fight Laugh Feast Network, maybe even the Pugcast with Glenn Sunshine and company, then surely you know we have a merch store. Rowdy Christian Merch is your one-stop shop for everything CrossPolitic merchandise. We've got T-shirts, hoodies, hats, but we've also got specialty items like backpacks, mugs, coffee, even AirPod cases, if you're into that sort of thing. Visit Rowdy Christian Merch at rowdychristian.com and buy that next gift or a little something for yourself. I mean,
we just had President's Day.
Yeah, President's Day.
And now what's the next day?
St.
Patrick's Day.
Yeah, don't
That's
forget
right.
to buy.
Get all the green stuff.
Your
green T-shirts.
Do we have a lot of
We have green on there. Yeah,
CrossPolitic
absolutely.
shirts, Fight Laugh Feet shirts. Okay. RowdyChristian.com.
You know, St. Patrick was a slave.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Went back, learned the gospel,
Yeah.
and went back to his slave captors and
Preach the gospel.
preached the gospel to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And he didn't cast out snakes off of the island.
No.
Yeah, no. That's a wives' tale.
Okay.
Oh, I don't even know why I need to know that if it's not
because
true.
it's often
Let's go back
believed
to
that
Dr.
Patrick-
Sunshine.
But Dr. Sunshine probably
I
knows
don't
more.
remember if they're on the list, but I've got several Irish. Actually, I know of at least one Irish saint that's on the list.
You know, I'm Irish.
Aye.
You're Irish?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. Got a little Irish in me. Can't see it. It's covered up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you covering it up?
You know, it's chocolate. It doesn't.
It's not a very dominant
But you can.
gene
I mean, it's you know.
in you. I don't hear it in your accent.
Glenn, what's your hope with this book?
What I would like is for people to read it and understand a couple of things. First of all, that Christianity is international. I've got Japanese, Mongol, Chinese, Indian, Syrian, African, South American, European, North American. We've got Christians from all over the world.
Right.
So I want them to understand that it's international. I want them to understand that the gospel has affected cultures from the very beginning in some very, very powerful ways. And further, that a lot of this is done by people who aren't exactly household names.
Right.
You know, when you read the Gospel of Luke, when you get to the 70 that Jesus sends out after the 12, we don't know a single one of their names.
Right. The 70.
Yeah. They're just anonymous, no-name Christians who go out on Jesus' commission and do amazing things. The only time in the Gospels that it says that Jesus rejoiced was after the 70 come back, after these no-name, anonymous disciples come back and tell him what happened as they obeyed his commission.
Right.
And in the same way, or look at Hebrews 11, where you have the great heroes of the faith. In the first half, they're all the household names.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end, he just tells a couple of stories or comments about people who, and they're all anonymous.
Right.
I wanted to give voice to the anonymous because most of us are anonymous. Most of us are people who will never be remembered. Except for our family for a generation or two, and then we'll be forgotten by everyone but God.
Right.
And as these people lived out their faith, like I said, they're not typical clergy.
Right.
They lived out their faith in whatever walk of life they were and whatever their calling was, and they brought the kingdom of God to bear in what they were doing, and they made a difference. Right. And that's the kind of thing every one of us can do.
I always like to mention this. I like making the same point that you're making with the genealogies in Scripture. It's the reverse. They're names, and we know nothing about them.
Right.
But when you're reading a genealogy, just think of yourself looking at a cemetery, full of names that you don't know, but they were moms and dads, they were husbands, they were wives, they were sons, they were daughters, they were grandpas, they were grandmas, and they had callings and vocations. But God saw fit to list their names in the Bible for all time. And we just try to pronounce them correctly. Barely can do that. But you read those names and you ought to be thinking the same kind of thing. God knew them. God loved them. Their lives mattered. They made a difference in their day. And
God's doing the same thing through you.
God's doing the same thing today, and he's going to do the same thing in generations to come.
So you gave us kind of two spicy ones. And so those are great. I want to ask you about some more spicy ones. But what are the ones that probably had the most impact personally on you as you've been researching these people?
There are two of them that come out right away. One of them is actually one of our missionaries. It's William Carey.
Bill.
William Carey, by way of background, he was trained as a cobbler. He apprenticed as a cobbler, shoemaker.
Yeah.
And while he was apprenticed, and then after he opened up his cobbler shop, he taught himself Greek, Latin, Hebrew, Italian, French, and Dutch.
Wow.
He then...
We ain't done nothing with our lives.
He then went... he became a particular Baptist preacher.
Yeah.
And he believed that God was calling him to India. So he went to the convention and basically said, I think God's sending me to India. I want your blessing. And his mentor told him something to the effect of, if God wants to convert the Indians, he will do it without the aid of you or me, Mr. Carey. Particular Baptists. That means they're hyper-Calvinists.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yep.
Carey decided that God was calling him to India anyway.
Right.
So he got a group of people together and he went to India. And he couldn't settle in an English colony in India because the British East India Company didn't allow missionaries. So he ended up in Serampore, which was, I believe, Danish, a colony there. And when he arrived, he found a target-rich environment. There were all kinds of areas that needed work. Now, as a missionary and a guy who had a modest talent for languages, he started working on learning the languages. But the problem was there were no standardized languages. So for example, in the Bengal region, they all spoke related languages, but they would shift from one village to the next, so that by the time you got several villages down, you couldn't understand the first village anymore.
Wow.
So what he did is he synthesized all these dialects into several sort of standard languages, created typefaces for them because none of them were written, wrote grammars, dictionaries, things like that.
So he's like the first Wycliffe missionary.
You betcha.
To India.
And he created the Bengali language,
Right.
which is one of the major languages of India.
Wow.
And he translated all or part of the Bible into over 40 Indian languages. He's the first person to come up with a Sanskrit dictionary into a modern European language. He is the first person to translate classical Indian literature into, a modern European language, in this case, English. But that's just the linguistic work.
Right.
He also started teaching astronomy because he wanted to break the astrological fatalism on the Indian people.
Yeah.
He did research in botany. He taught forestry. He taught agriculture. He established the first bank in Asia. He brought the first Western printing press to Asia.
Wow.
And like I said, created all the typefaces and things like that. Oh, and by the way, while he was doing all this work, there was a fire in his print shop, which destroyed all of his records and everything else, and he had to start again, which he did. He was also opposing sati, the practice of burning widows on the funeral pyres of their husbands.
Good on him.
Yeah.
On and on. And he brought the first steam engine to Asia and encouraged local blacksmiths to copy it.
Wow.
I mean, he saw need everywhere, and he knew that the gospel called him to bring the kingdom to bear in every area of life, and so he did it. Disclaimer, his one failure was his family. He did very badly as a husband and especially a father. That's the real tragedy of Carey.
Yeah.
But when you look at the range of things that he did, he is the single best example I know of a one-man walking cultural mandate.
Yeah. William Carey's famous for that quote, expect great things from God, attempt great things for God.
Yeah.
That's how I always remember that about him. But I mean, he lived it out.
Right.
Did his family not move? How did he?
Well, his first wife didn't really want to go to India and ended up having a nervous breakdown, and she passed away. His second wife worked with him, but he seems to have completely neglected raising his own children. He didn't do any kind of leadership, discipling, training them, anything like that. And
So did they fall away from the faith, or what?
Well, subsequent people who commented on this, who saw it firsthand, basically said the kids run wild. They have absolutely no discipline. They have no anything.
Yeah.
They're basically, as they would put it, a bunch of little savages.
Yeah. Man.
So that was the failure.
Yeah.
32 Christians who changed the world.
From Canon Press.
From Canon Press by going. When is this out?
Mid to late March.
Okay. All right. We're a little early, but that's okay. You can order right now.
Pre-order.
Yeah. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have
We're
kids,
going backstage, or we
go
going
baptize them. Until tomorrow, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is CrossPolitic.
We're going backstage. Dr. Sunshine, now.
We study God's Word at music camp, and God commands us to sing to let His Word dwell in us richly in psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs. We're to worship Him musically. We're to proclaim His Word musically. And so we want to train up our students, our children, to be able to sing skillfully with music, to understand what they're doing. The Bible says sing with understanding. But it's all couched in studying God's Word, growing up as Christian worshipers.
The default in our culture today is to be a music consumer. We are conditioned by the age we live in and the technology we have to be people who listen to music, and it's an important part of our life. But we have lost something that our forefathers knew, which was being active participants in music. It used to be if you wanted music, you had to make the music. And now we just press a button. But these students are learning through the course of their time at music camp not to be music consumers, but to be active participants in making music. So not only to learn how to sing well, how to understand music as it's written on a page and how it comes together in a group environment, but to be able to take those experiences and have them be the seeds that are planted for their involvement their whole life in the musical life of the church. We want these students to be the next wave of worshipers in the church who know how to sing to God.